The new old catchphrase in Indian politics is women's reservation. After years of grandstanding, some parties are walking the talk. They're giving a significant share of seats to women candidates. Some 33%, others allotting 40% of their seats. I'm not a huge fan of reservation personally, reservation of any kind, but I want to be optimistic. More participation means more representation, and more representation means more power to women. So in today's segment, we've decided to trace the rise of women in Indian politics. 43 women contested in India's first election. There were a total of 1,874 candidates. 43 of them were women, so that's less than 3% of the total candidates. But look at their success rate. 22 women became MPs. That's more than 50% of the women contenders. They won. 15 of these MPs were from the Congress party, one from the then United Communist Party, and one from the Hindu Mahasabha. The remaining 5 were independents. Come 1957, India's second election, there were 45 women candidates in the fray and 27 women MPs, 5% of the total pool. The 1962 elections, 70 candidates out of nearly 2,000 and 34 of them became MPs. The 1967 elections saw for the first time a fall in the number of women MPs. 31 women were elected as lawmakers. Now, this is a very interesting story. 1962 to 67, the fall in the number of women MPs. This was the same period when Indira Gandhi emerged as a politician. A lawmaker from the upper house, the leader of the Congress party, and then the Prime Minister of India. A sharp rise for one woman. It's hailed as historic. Sure it is. But in such adjectives, we lose the big picture, the big statistic. As one woman rose, there was a fall in the representation of women in India's parliament. 1971 followed the trend that was set in 1967. Just 22 women were MPs, 4% of all the lawmakers of the country. It dipped further in 1977 after the emergency to barely 19. The numbers picked up after that. The 1984 elections, which gave a thumping majority to Rajiv Gandhi, also gave 42 women a chance to represent their constituency, a whopping 8%. It was a record then. 28 lawmakers in 1989, 36 in 91, 40 in 1996, 44 in 98. The number nearly touched 50 in 1999, the election that saw Atal Bihari Vajpayee forming a government and completing the first full term in office by any party other than the Congress. The 2004 election saw 45 women candidates winning. A record 59 were part of the 15th Lok Sabha in 2009, and then the record was beaten again in 2014. 61 women were part of the 537-member strong Lok Sabha, and more importantly, their voices are heard more now. From 43 candidates in 1952 to 402 candidates in 2014, the rise in participation has been evident and sharp. But do all these women really represent themselves? That's a question worth considering. Indira Gandhi was nominated, designated for the post by the senior leaders of the Congress. It's a different story that she checkmated them. There is no doubting her appetite for politics. But the rise has often come to the privileged. We have more examples, not just Indira Gandhi. From Sonia Gandhi to Supriya Sule, through Jayalalitha, Kanimori and Rabri Devi, privilege and pliability to some extent help these women. Let's look at the record of each party now. In the last 2 decades, no party has given more than 10% of seats to women. The Congress has given close to 10%, which is the best. The BSP, interestingly, a party headed by a woman, Mayawati, has fielded the least number of women candidates, barely 5%. It's a party headed by an underprivileged woman. Great symbolism, but numbers tell you a totally different story. What is she doing to help other women? More than the candidates, the number of ministers tells you the power dynamics. Right now, there are 7 women ministers in the government. The highest was 10 in 2004. On a global level, how does India compare? India is at 103. That's our rank. 103 out of 140 countries in terms of women's representation. That's not a good record. Now, another question beckons. Does the rise in the number of women lawmakers mean a push for equality? Not necessarily, because at the state level, the proportions have fallen. And And therein lies a question. It's all good to give more tickets to women. It is good politics, good optics, but it's also important to make it meaningful by giving them representation in all platforms.